All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Chicagoland Speedway in advance of Sunday's Tales of the Turtles 400. We are joined by Dale Earnhardt Jr., driver of the number 88 Exalta Chevrolet. Dale has been doing the Junior Nation Appreciation Tour here for the second half of the season. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Scott Paddock from Chicagoland Speedway, who will show a token of appreciation from the track.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. Dale, I imagine you've done a couple of these throughout the season, and we appreciate you carving out some time today because it was important for us and our staff here at Chicagoland Speedway to say thank you for all that you've done for not only our facility but for the industry and this sport. And I think it's well documented how much of your time and energy and resources has been dedicated to charitable and philanthropic work and the difference you've made in a lot of communities and with a lot of deserving charities. So we wanted to come together and use this occasion. When we put our heads together, we said, you know, I think from Dale's perspective, he'd like to see some good come out of these recognitions. And we did a little homework, and we know of your affinity for dogs and for pets, and so we put our head together and combined the two. And so this weekend, we have partnered with a great organization called PAWS out of Chicago. It's an acronym that stands for Pets Are Worth Saving. And they do incredible work in finding rescue dogs and animals, particularly in tough times like now that we're dealing with some national disasters and tragedies, and those pets need to find places and they need to be saved. So we've rallied NASCAR Nation this weekend, and they're going to be bringing supplies all weekend long to the Windy City Ministries tent in Lower Ridge and also in Champions Park, bringing much needed supplies to help PAWS as they care for these animals and find homes. In addition to that, Chicagoland Speedway is going to make a contribution to PAWS on behalf of Dale's name in the amount of $8,800. So we feel great about this and just so glad that we could honor you in a way that we know that you would feel is cool. And again, thank you for all that you've done for us. And while we're going to miss you competing on the racetrack, we're glad to see that you're not going to be too far from the track in your new role, because we need you, and I know our fans will cherish the opportunity to stay connected with you for many years to come. So with that, I'd like to call up some representatives from PAWS. Alexis?
Thank you so much, Scott. And it's just such an honor for PAWS Chicago to be here along with Chicagoland Speedway, and really to pay tribute to Dale, to all of your achievements, to all of your contributions, and to your love of animals. This is Juno. Juno was rescued from a shelter where she would have most likely been killed. PAWS Chicago, we are one of the largest no-kill shelters in the country. We have a medical center where we treat more than 5,000 animals a year and find them loving homes. 98% of those animals that we take in are saved. And Juno came to us, had parvovirus, which, if many of you are animal lovers, you know is a puppy killer. And we were able to save her and all of her litter mates because we are committed to every animal for life. And so thank you so much for this contribution, for everything that you have done. We want to thank both Amy and Dale for everything that they do for animals, and Junebug and Gus, their two inspirations, and just truly appreciate the difference that this will make for homeless animals. Both in Chicago and recently we have had truckloads come back from Harvey devastated areas, and we have other animals coming in from Florida this week. So really it's all about coming together in animal welfare to honor these animals and give them life. So thank you all. Really appreciate it. Yes. Really appreciate it. Congratulations.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely a dog lover and a pet lover. So I appreciate the track for their donation and making a difference in the community. And it's awesome that there's programs like PAWS around that are taking care of these dogs, and I'm sure that's gonna help a lot. So I appreciate the track doing that, and that's right on par. We're right in line with the types of things that we like to see at these racetracks from week to week as we finish out this last season. So I really appreciate that. The thought is incredible, and imagine all the animals that's going to make a difference for. So very important. So I appreciate that. This is it's been a very very good relationship with this track over the years, and one that it's a racetrack that I enjoy. We won here a couple years ago, and definitely a track that has a lot of different grooves, which is puts it right up toward the top of the list for me. And also, it's an incredible market for us as a sport. I think we do really well here, and so I appreciate that a lot. So thank you.
All right, we'll now open up to questions for Dale. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll go back here to Bob and then to Jordan.
Bob Hawkers, ESPN. It was actually 12 years ago already since you won here. I want to say that first win was your first without Pops. That was one where Steve Meal was, and looking at highlights, it was a really emotional win, big win for you. How big was it when looking back on it?
I think it was we talked about it in our social media content that we've been pushing out, our appreciation videos. Steve Mill had worked for us for a long time, and I don't know. I think that it was we'd had difficult times as a company before, losing Dad and all that, and everybody stuck together, and we had a great year in 2004, and looked like that we were on the uptick, and a lot happened in that last little bit of 2004 that changed a lot of things for the company, and we struggled that year all across the board. Michael ran great, but I think as a company we had taken some wrong turns. It certainly derailed my career. It was on a pretty good curve, and it changed that dramatically. So that win, was about the only thing we had to celebrate that year. And I had a lot of admiration for Steve Meal for who he was and what he'd done in the sport. I looked up to him because of his history and where he'd been, and I thought it was cool that he even worked at DEI. But for him to kind of step down, he stepped out of a manager role to crew chief. He could have said, we got this other guy that'll do it, and I don't feel like doing that. But he stepped in, and we made it. We made the best of it. And I was kind of beat down and not sure about what I needed to do to get better. And he was a good influence on me. He was a positive influence on me as a crew chief and working with me over the radio. So we got along really well. But it wasn't a long-term fix because he was overqualified, and what for DEI we needed him to continue to manage. But he filled in and helped me and helped the team, and once we sorted all that out, we needed him to get back into his original role to help steer the company because of his expertise in the sport. That was going to be better for the company for him to be in that position. But it was pretty neat, Called for 2 tires and ended up making it work. I didn't think we was going to win that day.
We'll go to Jordan here in the middle.
Jordan Bianchi, SB Nation. Does your mindset change now that you guys are, you're not racing for a playoff berth anymore?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the pressure of trying to win the championship's not there, but that's a pressure that you kind of want, even though, you want it, it's not there. So there's a concern, I guess, that you could get sort of complacent and just go through these races and maybe some of the urgency or importance falls away a little bit because of that. There's nothing, there's no ultimate, carrot out there like that championship trophy. So I think, we'll consciously all kind of remind each other as a team to keep pushing hard and keep working hard. They have to, they're not, I'm done at the end of the year, but they go on. And they're, that off-season break, how the team sort of ends the season is a catalyst for how it begins the next one. And so it's important that we try to be as successful and find and learn and study and improve for the betterment of next season. And that off season is that off season's a few months, but it how you end the season is definitely it definitely affects how you begin the next one. And if you sort of tail off and you don't put all your effort into that ending, you sort of start flat the next year, and it takes you a while to sort of get things sorted out. But so without that kind of carrot or that urgency of being in the playoffs, I think that it's just important for us to continue to remind each other to push, continue to remind each other to work hard, to set personal goals for the team. One thing we talked about today, as silly as it is to try to get ourselves into the top 20 in points. We have opportunity to beat a few guys. So it sucks that, that's our goal. But, I mean, we're going to put little goals out there for ourselves that are personal achievements to push ourselves to keep working. And we put, you take pride in that. And so we feel like we, should be in the chase. We're not, so we're going to try to gain as many spots until the end of the year as we can in the points. And that's a goal. That's a carrot for us to continue to push for. So I think that's important.
We'll go to Jim.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. I saw Amy had tweeted earlier in the week asking for people if they had info about the keys. I was just wondering if you all had found out anything about how things were and your situation down there.
Well, I can only speak on the folks that I know, and from what I've heard of that, everyone that we have talked to, homes and structures are okay, but the infrastructure down there is in bad shape, power and water. So that stuff's going to take a long time to fix, particularly there's a lot of power lines down, poles down. It'll take quite a while for lower keys to get some power back. And the water system has been affected in several spots to cause some concerns. So that'll take a while before that's fixed as well. But they're getting ready to open the airport here soon, and that'll allow people to get supplies down there, and things will start to improve for everybody down there. I know there are a lot of people that did have a lot of structural damage to their homes, but most of the folks that we've talked to actually came away, fortunately, intact. Our stuff's good. We're down in the old town, which is all the houses are very close together, literally 6 to 10 feet away from each other, so they sort of protect each other. We had a guy that's a friend of ours. He lives around Marathon, and it was very dangerous for him to be up there because their houses are a little spread out. So he stayed in our house during the hurricane. He said you could sit on the porch while it was coming through there if you sat on the right side of the house. He said if you sat on the wrong side, it'd take your head off. But you could sit on one side and actually watch everything going on, and it was pretty crazy. But luckily, we didn't have too much on our own personal property, but I know there's a lot of people down there that are dealing with some pretty difficult situations, and there's just a lot of stuff. I mean, there's people down there that I know that have homes that are in one piece, but they can't stay there because of the infrastructure's down as far as water and power, and there's just you can't do anything without water, you know. So until that's sorted out, they can't get back down there and get everything cleaned up.
We'll come down here to the right to Lee.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. You talked so vividly about your win here. Do you still recall that moment when you got your first victory at Texas, and the emotion that you shared with your dad, and how that whole moment of finally getting that breakthrough win, what it meant to you, and kind of how it set up your career?
I'll be honest with you, it all came kind of easy right out of the gate. I don't consider myself very arrogant or cocky, but I was with Tony Sr. and Tony Jr., who had more than enough to carry me and pick up the slack anyways. Tony Sr.'s the kind of guy that was upset and mad if he wasn't on the top of the charts for every practice, not only just the races, but he wanted to win every practice. And they came in, we just really had such good runs and great cars in the Xfinity Series, and we came in the Cup Series, and I remember Tony Jr. and Tony Sr. talking like, we're going to be fine. We're better than all these guys. We're going to be, we're going to be good. And we came out and won Texas and then Richmond and won the All-Star race. Literally, I'm thinking, wow, these guys really know what they're doing. I had no clue, what to expect or what was going to happen. But just, I don't know. It happened so fast. It wasn't like a big relief, or it came quicker than it should have. So it was a bit of a shock, and too good to be true for that first win. And then we went to Richmond and won, and then we won the All-Star race, and we were strutting around thinking we were the top dudes. And I remember how we nosedived, and the rest of that season was a misery. But it wasn't like relief or anything. It was just shock. Wow, this can't believe this happened so quickly. I just looked up to everybody that had been running in this series forever, and didn't know that we were going to be able to beat them. I was glad, of course, that Dad was there. That's the only reason why I started racing, was to make him proud and try to connect to him and do things that would be like aha moments for him, I thought racing was cool and a great way to make a living, but I really just wanted to, do things that would make him, really proud. So that was certainly something we accomplished in the Xfinity Series way before we ever, won that first race at Texas. I already had a lot of moments like that. In Victory Lane with him, he would come in. They would typically practice right after our Xfinity races. So he'd rush into the winter circle and in his uniform and say something and go up to his car for happy hour or whatever.
We're here to Nate.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Dale, the playoffs haven't started, but I'm sure you saw we already have our first mini controversy over the dominance of Toyotas just from practice alone. So Brad says that this is the biggest manufacturer gap in 40 years. As a non-Toyota driver, do you see it as being that big a gulf right now? And then he also intimated that there's something NASCAR should do about it if there is a disparity. What could NASCAR do, I guess, in this day and age to address that if there is a gap?
I got on a bike after practice and rode 40 miles with Jimmy, which is a terrible idea. Just for the record. So I missed the whole debate. But I don't know if it's, when I look at, from my point of view, I just look at the board, watching the times, and I see Fords and Toyotas up there in the top 10. I don't just see one manufacturer. I think that Joe Gibbs and that whole organization have done an incredible job of getting 4 teams to work very closely together. And I've never seen it done any better, where one organization literally has 4 cars that seem almost equal every week. And they live it, so they might, like Denny and those guys live it, so they might not see it that way. They might not see it so equal, being in the thick of it. But from outside, it's really impressive how well they've done. And I think that it's more than just manufacturers. You got to look at how Joe and those guys run their business, how they build their cars, what's the process that they take from start to finish when they build a car from the ground up. I think that they do it in a way that it took a while, but it's got harmony across the board for all the teams. And they have a great way of sort of cultivating their talent outside of the car, their crew chiefs, engineers, and all that stuff through their Xfinity series and their programs there, which I think we do a good job of that too at Junior Motorsports with Hendrick. But when I just look at the board, I see Fords and Toyotas running up top. I don't see just one manufacturer up there. And to answer your question about what they could do, I don't think there is anything they can do. We all sort of have the same rules to live by. So all the cars should be pretty close. We could complain, but Kyle Larson runs too good for all the Chevys to complain. It's like if Kyle Larson wouldn't run so damn good, then we'd have an argument. But it just I think you have to look at more than just are the Toyotas better or the Fords better or the Chevys better? It's just really how people run their business. And I think that the Gibbs guys they've been working on how they build cars together as a group across the board, and how all the teams work together. And I think that they've really got it going on right now. So we've noticed over the last couple of years sort of their method to their operation, and certainly see some things that they do really well.
We'll wrap up over on the far left with Aaron.
Aaron Bearden, Kicking the Tires. Dale, we know you're gone at the end of the year, and we now know that Danica Patrick's out at Stewart-Haas, and we could potentially lose her too. You are 2 of the biggest names, I would say, our sport has right now. Is there anything that you feel the new generation or new crop of drivers can do to try to catch the public eye in the same way that each of you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's these young guys are really, really crafty with social media, and I think that that's a great direction for them to interact with not only current fans but find new fans. I think that they do a great job of that. This is I had to learn, what Twitter was, how to use it, how to use it. These guys grew up in this generation they're sort of already masters of it. There's a lot of great things going on Instagram, and Twitter, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to capture an audience and make new fans, create new fans. They need to push themselves, which is hard to do. I didn't want to do any of this when I was young, but they need to push themselves to go to these. When NASCAR says we need somebody in New York to do morning shows this week to promote this playoffs, these guys need to jump on that wagon and go. It's not a ton of fun, but once you're in the middle of it, doing it, it's great. It's really enjoyable meeting these people, meeting these personalities, making these connections and networking with these people. Flying up there is crap, flying home is crap, but the process of doing it's great. I think these, Chase, Blaney's really good at it. He don't say no to nothing. And that's great. I think all the guys need to try to be, be aware and be active and try to get those opportunities. NASCAR can really get their foot in the door to do a lot of cool things. We did a Funny or Die skit several years ago. Those are great examples of what these drivers need to try to get themselves involved in, and NASCAR can get them there, and then the PR team and so forth with NASCAR can open these doors for these guys, and they need to try to grab it. And it's anything outside of it's anything outside of the industry. It's easy to come in here and sign autographs at the racetrack or do some media here with you guys, but that's going to happen on its own. You need to try to do things outside the box. That's LA, New York, Chicago, anything sort of outside our little bubble. Do that now and start to build your brand. And I thought, building a brand, what I want to do that. It should just build itself, but you can actively build your brand and grow it up. And by the time these guys are 28, 30 years old, they could be bigger than anything we've ever seen in the sport.
Thanks for joining us, Dale. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you, guys.